Um, I love Fairfield. There's something about this place that just, makes my head go like this and attracts me here. My sister-in-law actually went to University, my wife's twin, but she was here 10 years ago. And so, it's been some interesting transition. But the main reason I came here was Janet met my sister-in-law, and then she lined me up, and we did some work with Janet and some of her friends, and then she invited me to come and do intuitive readings, and it's funny, you just fall in love with this place. It's different, and it's different because of your energy, and it's good energy, it's healing energy, it's marvelous. But one of the problems with Iowa is it's just loaded with toxins. Lots of chemical sprays, lots of things going on that have created an energy of toxicity, and we take care of our souls and our spirits, but our bodies get these toxins, and we need to kind of clean them up. It's very interesting. I've been on a path that has led me to parasites. And parasites can be anything from viruses, funguses, bacteria, to the larger parasites, protozoans, amoebas, flatworms, roundworms, longworms, there's all kinds. And when I was in medical school, they taught us that we don't have a problem in the United States with parasites. And every time we'd have a lecture on parasites, he reiterated, you're not going to have to deal with this, but I have to teach you this stuff anyway. And I was fascinated by parasites. Now, the reason I put this slide up is toxins have made it so our immune system isn't as adept at getting rid of parasites. And petrochemicals, herbicides, pesticides, those kind of things carry energies that have injured our thalamus, our thyroid, our thymus, our adrenal glands, our ovaries, our testes, those kind of hormone-producing organs. We're not producing the hormones like we used to. And so detoxing is a lifelong process for us right now until we get the earth cleaned up again, cleaned up from all these products we've been making. Who has parasites? This is very interesting. This is the latest stuff from the CDC. And most doctors in the United States have very little training and less belief in parasites. And yet parasites are causing more diseases, more chronic illnesses than any of us can imagine. Right now, in the United States, 65% of the population has been diagnosed with one chronic illness. 35% has been diagnosed with two or more, which is dumbfounding to me, because back when I started medical school, about 5% of the population had a chronic illness, chronic autoimmune disorder. And so things have changed. It's estimated by the doctors who actually believe in parasites, that 90% of the population has these diseases now. And these have been brought in from third world countries. They've been brought in because of the difficulties our immune systems are having in getting rid of these parasites. And the infections occur because of all of the environmental causes, plus the fact that we've just ignored them. And so as a medical doctor practicing alternative medicine, I have found parasite cleansing to be very effective and very healthy for people. Very good for people. Now let me tell you, the first parasite cleanse I ever did was back in 1987. I came down with a diagnosis of stage 4 malignant melanoma, invasive. 99.98% of the people with that diagnosis died within 3 months of being given that diagnosis. And I felt like I was not going to die, so I got on my hands and knees, and I was a prayer, and I prayed for an answer. And I always get answers. And the name Hulda Clark came to my mind, and I went to my office the next day. I was a busy OBGYN, and there was an article by a Dr. Hulda Clark, and she talked about parasites being the cause of cancer. And I called her up. We had a discussion for an hour and a half. It was divine intervention because she was there, she was available. It's like everything just rolled together. I got going on the stuff she told me to do, which was a parasite cleanse, Asiatic tea, cat's claw, do chelation therapy, divorce my wife, you know, those kind of things. And I didn't divorce my wife at the time, but later on that actually happened because our paths changed. As I started doing more alternative medicine and making less money, she wasn't happy. Because she liked spending money, and she liked that I made lots of money. So when I stopped making as much money, it was a whole different story. But I was able to cure that malignant melanoma with the parasite cleanse and all the Asiatic tea and everything, and it was marvelous. It was amazing. And I literally, I was 245 pounds when I started the parasite cleanse. I lost 40 pounds with my first parasite cleanse. And you know what Hulda Clark said to me? You had 40 pounds of parasites. Isn't that interesting? So if you're overweight, you've probably got parasites. Because they actually like our body to be bigger to parasitize. They have more body to grow their kids in, you know. So it's very fascinating. Now, this statement right here is kind of long, but it's true. If you've got tumors, cysts, acne, sores which don't heal, intestinal diseases, chronic illnesses of the brain, lungs, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, spleen, ovaries or testes, hormone imbalances, endometriosis, brain or nervous conditions, skin, glandular dysfunction, kidney disease, chronic bone and joint inflammation and pain, immune dysfunction, lymphatic congestion. I mean, this pretty much covers everything, doesn't it? You've probably got parasites. Isn't that amazing? And it is, God forbid I get caught on camera saying this, curable. Pretty amazing. So let's just not say curable. We can remove these problems from your body. Okay? So let's stop living unconsciously and make better choices with our intents and actions. If you desire to cleanse, stop toxing up your body. If you desire to be healthy, make healthy choices. Take back your health. On the CDC website, they talk about the 5 neglected parasite infections here in the United States. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because it's fascinating to me. I learned about these, and as an OBGYN, I was actually taught to try and keep the pregnant women from getting these diseases because it caused a lot of problems with the fetus and the growing baby. And they would be born and they would have chronic illnesses, and some of them would go deaf by the time they became adolescents. And it was due to parasitic infections, which is fascinating. And I put this picture of this little kid playing in the playground because, you know, we have all these beautiful parks, and we take our dogs and our cats and all our parasite-infested animals, and they poop on the ground, and our kids go and play in it. And some of these are transmitted by dogs and cats and other animals. So it's important that we're aware of these things. Okay, we're going to talk about the 5 top neglected parasite infections, the 5 major ones. And they're telling the doctors they need further action for Chagas disease, cysticercosis, toxocariasis, toxoplasmosis, and trichomoniasis. Now, these are long words, but they're very simple infections. Chagas disease is caused by something called Trypanosoma cruzi, and it was named Chagas disease after Dr. Chaga, who identified it. And it's transmitted from animals and people by insect vectors. And it used to only be found in South America, but now they're finding more and more cases here in the United States because we have many people who have come here from South America and other nations and brought with them, these parasites, and they've been getting in the vectors here, and now they're very, very common. The infection can also be acquired congenitally, in other words, passed from the mother to the infant. And, you know, I was taught about these things way back when I was an OBGYN, and I was taught to look for these things. I was practicing down in Phoenix, Arizona, which a lot of the population comes from south of the border. And many of them would have these sort of things going on. And we actually looked for these things when I was in Arizona. But as things have been traveling, the population and immigration has gone further and further north, and so we're seeing these diseases in Milwaukee and Chicago and, you know, all of these, probably in Fairfield, you know. So it's very common, and there's estimated to be 300,000 people in the United States with chronic Chagas. When they estimate, these are people who don't believe in parasites, mind you. And so their estimation is quite low. They're thinking there may be as many as 3 million people or more infected with Chagas here in the United States. And so as we go on from this, trying to get this crazy thing to go, it's interesting, as an OBGYN, you know, we'd have these babies be born with severe problems. And a lot of them were very lucky to survive. But with our technology and everything, we were able to keep them alive, you know, and give them all these different things, and you know, neonatal intensive care units and all the different meds we have, and our care to make sure they were hydrated and everything else. And what was interesting was the medical community gives these kids supportive care, and then we get them beyond that crisis, but they still have problems when they start developing. And so it's created a whole new myriad of difficulties for the medical establishment to take care of and look at and find treatments. And the thing they don't look at is the parasitic component that is there and available. I've dealt with several people who literally had a rough childhood, were in intensive care unit, and then they start doing really well, and then they get to adolescence, their hormones start turning on, and all of a sudden these parasites start coming back alive, and they start getting neurological problems, seizures, deafness, eye difficulties, all this kind of stuff. And this is well documented that it's due to parasites. A lot of congenital infections, you know, you can institute different drugs, and the drugs cause neural problems and liver problems and kidney problems. And so even treatment with the drugs can have its side effects in these young kids. Now, why am I talking about this? You know, you ask yourself, geez, I'm older, I don't need to worry about this kind of stuff. Well, maybe you have had a parasitic infection for a long time and you don't even know it. You know, they don't necessarily kill us, but they can make us very sick, they can make us have pain, they can make us degenerate, they can cause a lot of different problems. Now, the interesting thing I've learned about parasites is larger parasites have smaller parasites, and the smaller parasites have their parasites, and it goes all the way down to viruses. So these parasites, even though they may not be causing you major problems, once a month or so when they divide or they poop or they do whatever they do, they let go of their own parasites, and those go into your body, and your immune system has to deal with them. I have people who, you know, have gone to the doctor, they've been treated for their H. pylori. H. pylori causes ulcers and stomach problems and reflux, and they get rid of it with the antibiotics, and then a month later, it's back. Where did it come from? How did they not eradicate it? And it's because you have other parasites within your body that are pooping these darn things out and letting them out of their system, and then they reinfect you. And so you have to get rid of the hiding places, the bigger parasites. So it's quite fascinating. Chagas carries herpes viruses, and it can be possibly responsible for the 30 million cases of chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia here in the United States. You know, 1 in 10 people now have fibromyalgia. That's a high number of people with a disease that, you know, the regular doctors, they have no idea what's causing it or what the problem is, but it's caused by viruses, DNA viruses that come out of these parasites. And it may not just be the Chagas, it may be others. Cysticercosis, you know, the tapeworm, the common tapeworm. In Utah, we didn't have big pig farms for the longest time. And in the early 90s, they started bringing these pig farms into Utah. And people started getting tapeworms. It was the most fascinating thing. And many, many people in southern Utah worked at the big pig farms over in Milford. They put them out in the middle of the desert, you know, but you had people having to go there and work. And it was interesting because they come in with these sores on their hands, and the doctors go, oh, you just, you know, we don't know what's going on. And they ended up having the larval stages of the tapeworms coming into their hands and their feet. And it was fascinating because all the doctors in town didn't know what it was, but I knew what it was. It was parasites, you know? And so the people who know about these things are the people we need to gravitate toward because they'll help us get rid of these infestations. The most dramatic case that I saw of a tapeworm. Now, some of these tapeworms are quite interesting. They'll lay their eggs in the gut, and you know, all these people are having problems with celiac disease, gluten enteropathy, you know, different problems with our guts. And we like to blame them on GMOs or the BT toxins or different things, but we don't think about the parasites. And these parasites are in our guts, and they're filtrating in through these breaks in our colon, because when you get these diseases, the cells don't wall off things from getting into our body, and you get undigested food coming in, you get parasites coming in, all kinds of stuff. And our bloodstream and our liver and our spleen aren't built to deal with all this undigested matter. And it causes severe digestive problems. So if you've got severe digestive problems, you've probably got parasites and things that are causing these leaky gut syndrome type things. And so, but I was going to tell about this dramatic case. I had a lady who had gone on a mission down to Bolivia and had come back, and she'd gone to 18 different doctors because she'd have these weird symptoms of tickles in her throat, and then she'd start coughing violently and different things, and it happened once a month, and everybody thought, oh geez, let's give her Prozac. She's depressed. She needs something to calm her down. And they even went as far as to put her on tranquilizers and different things. And what was interesting about it was when she came into me, she was having those symptoms. So I had her, you know, open up her mouth, and I saw this little thing wiggling in the back of her mouth.
Oh,
and I took, you know, being an OBGYN, I like my forceps, and I grabbed that thing and I pulled it out, and it was a tapeworm this long. And in the life cycle, this thing would come up each month and lay eggs in her lungs. Of all things, you know, you have these little parasitic eggs, and she would start coughing violently. And the doctors all just dismissed her as crazy. And yet there was a cause for this happening to her. And luckily, we put her on a parasite cleanse, we got her well. And literally, she'd been to 18 specialists even, different respiratory specialists, all kinds of people. But
how did she respond when you pulled out the tapeworm?
She was so grateful. She had gratitude. She's like, I'm not crazy. There was something actually wrong with me, you know. So this was quite interesting. This is the arm of a man in a clinic here in the United States. And these are tapeworm cysts within his arm. Now, this may sound gross, but my wife's daughter, oldest daughter, loves pork products. And they're not always well cooked, and they've actually found even if you well cook them, you can get cysticercosis. And she started getting pain in her left wrist and swelling of her thumb and down in her hand, and she went down to the doctors in Vegas, and they're like, well, we're not sure what's going on, but we'll put you on antibiotics. So they put her on antibiotics, and it got worse. And so then she calls me up. She says, Dad, I'm hurting here. What's going on with me? And I'm like, oh, you've got cysticercosis. And so we started her on Parasite cleanses, but she actually had these lumps similar to this, just right in through here. And we treated her with herbal Parasite cleanses, and they're going away. And this is just recently. I mean, this is people in my own family, you know, and it's like, ah! But these parasites are everywhere, and they affect all of us. I've actually seen this in several people, this very thing, and it can be in your legs. You know, you'll have these veins that get huge, and people have they've come in and they say, oh, I've got this, it's moving right now, and you can see their vein moving around. It's like, whoa. You know, it's kind of freaky. So, it's caused by the larval cysts in the pork, and these cysts are very difficult to kill, even with heat. And so, I just say I'm Jewish and I stay away from pork. So, it's cool. Anyway, the tapeworm infection can be acquired by eating the undercooked pork, but you can also get it by, touching the soil, being in the soil, not washing your hands, putting your fingers in your mouth. My one daughter is 7. She's still sucking her thumb, and I always tell her, look, stop sucking your thumb so you don't get those parasites, because a lot of kids, when they take and they get in the dirt, they're playing, and then they put their fingers in their mouth or their thumb in their mouth, they get these parasitic infections. Okay, so the highest rates of this are actually found in America, Asia, and Africa. And sanitation, I found, this is the CDC side. They say poor sanitation, but I found it in the rich, the people who have money. And they will go to their doctors, and their doctors will treat them for different things, and then they tell them, we don't know what's wrong with you. And then for some reason they find me, and I give them the answers, and we start them on treatments for the parasites. And every parasite cleanse I've put people on, I haven't had one person that hasn't had some sort of benefit, either increased energy or just feeling better, or at least going to the bathroom better, different things. And we use things that are very safe. Here in Fairfield, I don't know why, but people's livers get hot real easily. And I found here I have to put people on herbs to help release the heat from their livers. But it's interesting because I haven't had that sort of thing occur in other areas, but for some reason I guess the meditation allows the livers to get hotter. I think it may be because of all the toxicity, all of the herbicides and pesticides they use. So it's very fascinating. NCC, I had to go back one, but it's neural related problems with the cysticercosis, and they found that more and more people, I can't figure out how to go back, but more and more people have come down with neurological problems due to cysticercosis. And they'll have seizures, they'll have tumors, cysts, neurological dysfunction, MS, those kind of problems. And I feel like a lot of neurological diseases, demyelinating diseases, are due to these parasites and heavy metals and toxins, petrochemicals. Okay. it's really interesting. Reporting of parasite cleanses in the United States is abysmal. I mean, medical doctors don't believe in it. They don't believe any of the diseases are caused by parasites, and so it's underreported, horribly underreported. And so it's difficult for the CDC to even know the extent of parasitic problems in the United States. So a lot of people are starting to believe that even MS is due to these tapeworm larvae that get in and start eating up. You know, you have these lesions that they get on the spine, and they're starting to believe these are parasites eating the nervous system. So quite an interesting thing. Now this toxocariasis is a very interesting too. It's called visceral larva migrans because these parasites form these little larvae, and they can get in the eyes. I don't know if any of you watched that YouTube video of the guy that had these little larvae coming out of his eyes and stuff. But this is the disease that causes this. And believe it or not, it's very, very, very common. And our dogs and cats carry this stuff. And it's one of those parasites that get into your system and it just moves around. They call it migrants because it migrates to different parts of the body, and you'll get like a wrist arthritis for a little while, then it'll go away, then it'll go in your other wrist, or it'll go in your knee, and then go into your ankle. I had one lady who got it in her one ankle, and then it migrated all the way around to her other ankle. And why does it do that? Well, I've got my own theories with emotional stuff. And different joints in the body get weakened due to different emotional deficits and problems. And so these parasites go wherever you're weak energetically. And they establish themselves and start growing and causing trouble. And so, you know, emotional things can be very important in treatment of these parasitic infections. The eggs produced in these worms are in the feces of infected animals. And, you know, how many of us, you know, we have to clean up after our dogs and cats and everything. I was really, really pleased when I see people wear masks when they're cleaning their cat litter and stuff, because when I was an OBGYN, that was the biggest thing we saw was people would have their cats and be pregnant, and they would clean their cat litter and they would get the diseases from these parasites that their cats had and cleaning up the feces. And it's interesting, they talk about raw liver. I remember my grandparents trying to get me to eat liver, and it was like pulling teeth with me. I did not want to eat liver. And yet, you know, that generation, it was very big to eat liver. And liver and onions. My least favorite thing to eat. But it's fascinating, the things that help give us parasites. Now, kids with Pica, most of them are iron deficient. They'll eat dirt just to get the iron, and a lot of these kids end up getting parasites. And so, if you have kids that are iron deficient and they're eating dirt, you definitely need to, you know, treat them for parasites. Swallowing the contaminated soil, it's interesting. All the parasites normally go to the lungs, the liver, the eyes, the brain, the heart, you know, pancreas, those kind of things. And I found a striking increase in difficulties with these various organs. Pancreas, I've seen a huge increase in pancreatitis over the last year and a half. There was a huge outbreak in St. George of pancreatitis, and I was unfortunately one of them. But I believe that I get some of these things so I can learn how to treat them, so I can learn how to treat other people. And I'm here to tell you, if I'd have gone to the hospital, I'd have probably got the Whipple procedure and died, because that happened to about 30 people in St. George with pancreatitis this last year. And luckily, I my guides told me, nope, you need to go to Hawaii instead to heal. And I'm like, okay, I'll go to Hawaii and heal. This is cool, because I love Hawaii, as Mary knows. And it's just a great place to go to heal and be made well. But there's a lot of parasites in Hawaii too, believe it or not. But the fresh fruit and the enzymes and everything there is so good for the body and to help it heal. Let's keep it going. Well, I've been talking that long already. Toxocariosis can cause abdominal pain, cough, fever of unknown origin, irritability. How many of us get irritable? I mean, you know, how do we know that isn't a parasite infection? You know, I mean, we're nice people. We meditate. We're cool. You know, and but we can have all kinds of problems. Itchy skin. I meet so many people with just itching. My wife had a major problem with itching just here on the side of her heel, and then she got this. Her feet felt inflamed all the time, and I hooked her up to my body scan. And guess what? What top 10 things were that were wrong with her? She had parasites, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm the doc that treats parasites. What's my wife getting parasites for? You know, and yet, you know, once we treated her with the antiparasitics, her foot pain went away and that itch on the side of her foot went away. Fascinating stuff. Shortness of breath, wheezing. I've been under the belief system that a lot of lung problems are fungal, but I found a lot of them can be parasitic also. And so doing antifungals and antiparasitics, if you've got lung problems, can clear a lot of those things up. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. The eyes, this ocular visceral larva migrans, they call it ocular visceral migrans. These parasites can get in the eyes, cause floaters. If you've got floaters, little dark spots float across your eye, you've got parasites. It's fascinating. And a lot of these parasites get in the lymph, and they can cause problems with increased pressure in the eyes, glaucoma. And so it's fascinating. The other interesting thing, this was right off the website from the CDC, is it causes strabismus. So if you all of a sudden get so your eyes are kind of wandering off a little bit, and you've got parasites. So interesting things. Now, swollen livers. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I am meeting so many people who have fatty, swollen livers. And my feeling was it was a lot to do with too much sugar intake, too much soda pop, too much, you know, sugars. And the other cause can be parasitic, causing the lymph drainage of the liver not to work well, and so the liver gets big and fatty. And so if you've got a swollen liver or heart congestion, you know, an enlarged heart, different problems like this, it can be parasites. Okay. Oh, here's other stuff direct from the CDC about the toxocariosis. Blindness, decreased visual acuity, you know, your eyes are getting worse. Encephalitis. I've also found there's parasites that cause elephantiasis here in the United States. You know, that was considered mainly an African problem. But now it's very prevalent here in the United States. People get these swollen extremities. It can be your arms and your legs, or you know, just one. If they're just in one arm, it could be one arm. So if you know people that have these problems, it's parasites. Okay, let's talk a little bit about toxoplasmosis. This is one that was real big with pregnant women, and I think it's still real big, because people don't deal with it very much, but the baby can be infected, and it causes, you know, early delivery, it causes fetal high drops, you know, they get all kinds of neurological problems, and it's a problem with parasites that get in. And so the infection can spread, and if it's in the baby, it's in the mother. So the mother needs to be treated too. It was really interesting when we were practicing as OBGYNs, we would see this and we'd treat the baby, but it was interestingly common not to treat the mother, and yet she was still infected. And so, now I definitely, if I see children with difficulties, I treat the parents too, because it usually comes from the parents. Or from the dogs and cats. I very commonly will put dogs and cats on parasite cleanses. And I found that they respond much better than us humans because they don't have the emotional difficulties we do. Well, maybe they do because they're living with us, but it's one of those things. Okay, so if you have signs of infection in the children, definitely treat the animal pets and the parents. Children respond really well to herbal treatments. I've found that most of the pharmaceutical treatments for parasites are very toxic on the kidneys and the liver. And so I prefer treating kids with herbal remedies. And they make some really nice ones. There's a company out of Vernal, Utah called Cedar Bear that produces this parasite cleanse that tastes really good. They make it in a glycerin base, and it works really well in little kids. So it's a very nice product, and it's a very good company. Now, let's talk a little bit about ear problems. Little kids that have earaches, I found that a lot of times parasites are causing the problem. And medical doctors treat it with antibiotics, then it makes fungus get worse, and what they actually should be doing is treating it with antiparasitics and antifungals. But herbal ones are better. Like I said, the pharmaceutical antifungals are very toxic on the liver, very toxic on the liver. And so, but they don't believe in parasites anyway, so you won't find your treatment usually through the medical community. And it's better to go through an alternative care provider. This is it kind of looks at the toxoplasmosis, and it's an interesting bug. It can be transferred from birds and mice and pigs and sheep and all kinds of different animals, and get into human beings, and then get into the fetuses. And mothers, one of the things I found, if women have trouble with their monthly cycle, either heavy bleeding or heavy cramping, different things, it's usually parasites that get in the uterus. Now, if you think about the uterus, it's a great place to grow things. It's where the babies grow. But parasites love getting in there and growing also. They love to, the blood, and flukes I found are a real big problem getting up into the uterus. Flukes are flatworms. They're not just a fluke, They're probably one of the most dangerous of the different parasites because they carry really nasty bacteria and really nasty fungus in them. When I had malignant melanoma, it was a combination of flukes and black fungus that caused the melanoma in my system. So, doing antiparasitics and antifungals was very important for my getting rid of that disease. Toxoplasmosis can cause all kinds of things, and I'm going to go into, it's endemic worldwide, so everybody in the world gets this stuff. And if you have enlarged lymph nodes in the head and the neck that the doctors give you antibiotics they can't get rid of, it's probably toxoplasmosis, believe it or not. I mean, these are the most neglected. These are from the CDC, the Center of Disease Control here in the United States. They actually put this, and they're trying to teach the medical doctors about this, but a lot of them are very resistant to treating these sort of things. If you get mononucleosis, usually herpes viruses will hide in these larger parasites. And, it's very communicable, but the parasites keep it going in the system. And so getting rid of the parasites will actually help your body get rid of the viruses. Okay. Chronic muscle pain, sore throats, those kind of things. Confusion. A lot of psychological illness is due to parasites getting into the brain. And so, and blurred vision, and I see a lot of people with retinal detachment. You need to consider parasites, you know, because they'll have spontaneous retinal detachment. They won't be able to see until they end up and getting laser surgery. They get it back together, and then it pops right back out again. So, you know, different things like this. Seizures. If you have somebody have new onset of seizures, you need to consider parasites in the brain, central nervous system. Many people are not treated, and if they're treated, they're not treated appropriately. You know, the medical profession for toxoplasmosis recommends anti-malarial drugs. Now, I don't know who here has been on anti-malarial drugs. Anybody? They're awful. They make you feel like crap, and usually you have to take 2 to 3 of them. They give you combination therapy, and they drive fungus into your system. In other words, they get rid of these parasitic infections, but they make the fungus grow better. So staying away from sugars is very important, because that feeds fungus and parasites. So I'm not going to go into the other thing on here, but the thing that people really don't realize is it takes a while to get rid of these things, because they lay eggs. When you kill off the adults and juveniles, the eggs start hatching, and if you don't cycle through the parasite cleanses, you know, usually I'll test with kinesiology how many cycles people need to do in order to eradicate these things from their body. I've had as many as 22 cycles come up.
Oh, please don't tell us that.
What? Yes.
Don't tell us that.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about parasite cleansing is it does make you feel better, because you get that parasitic load. We'll always have parasites. We really will. You know, they're just in our environment, and our immune systems aren't as good as they used to be. And in order to balance the parasites, you need to get rid of the darn things, and make sure that, you know, you don't let the eggs hatch and grow in big parasites and lay more eggs, because then you're back at square one. So it's important to remember you can't just kill them with one parasite cleanse. Okay. Trichomoniasis. Oh, this is a fun one. When I was an OBGYN, anytime somebody come in and you get down to do the exam and you smell the fish odor, you go, whoa, they've got trichomonas. And so we would, you know, Flagyl was the main treatment back then, metronidazole. And metronidazole has its own problems and its own toxicities with the liver and the kidneys and everything. And so, but that was the mainstay of treatment, and it usually worked pretty good. But what was interesting was we wouldn't cycle it. You know, we weren't taught to cycle it with these parasites, and so 3 months later they'd end up coming back with the same thing again. And then you got to remember to treat their partners, and then you got to, you know, it's all kinds of fun stuff. But what they found is trichomonas actually gets down into up into the uterus and causes problems with the fetuses and the children, and they're born with it, and then they have troubles. And this is a look at them. They call them flagellates because they have this little flagella on them, and they're considered a protozoan. And protozoans and amoebas are parasites, but they're cellular parasites, and so they're one cell, and they do lay eggs, which you know, in microbiology we knew they insisted and did all these things, and they get into the tissues, but they wouldn't look for the eggs. And they're finding more and more that these small parasites lay a lot of eggs. And you know, we, as an OBGYN, we weren't taught about that. It was quite fascinating. So oral sex can also transmit trichomoniasis. And if you've got chronic bad breath or problems with gingivitis, it can be a protozoan in there, because they lay these. When they go to the bathroom, they'll poop out bad bacteria and cause, you know, all kinds of interesting things. Like I said before, you know, if you've got H. pylori and you can't get rid of it, you've probably got a parasite where they're keep coming out and reinfecting you. Okay, so 70% of infected people don't really realize they have a problem, and they really don't have many symptoms. And but as these diseases get deeper and deeper in your system, they can cause chronic illnesses and chronic aches and pains. You know, a lot of us are misdiagnosed with a viral rheumatoid arthritis when it actually may be parasitic. So it's always good to just, I do a parasite cleanse every 3 months, just because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel better. Plus the fact that I had malignant melanoma, I don't want to get it back. Pregnancy is one of the biggest things, and I won't go into that because all of you don't look pregnant, but it does affect, you know, pregnant women and their babies much more common, and causes babies to be born with low birth weight, multiple problems, and they are always misdiagnosed because the mother has no symptoms, and so they don't really realize she has a parasitic infection, and the baby does too. It was amazing to me how many babies were born with low birth weight, and parasites are one of the problems. I'm going to talk a little bit about parasites and cancer. We're almost to the end of the time. I can't see the clock very good. Okay. Parasites and cancer. I'm going to talk a little bit about this because this is what I deal with day in and day out. Is people with cancers that they don't want to go the chemotherapy and the radiation route, or maybe they've gone that route and it's recurred, or they've gone that route and there's nothing else their medical doctor can do. I've found that supporting the tissues, supporting the body, doing parasite cleanses, antifungals, there's some marvelous herbs that will help regenerate the cells. We just had introduced several products recently from the top companies that I really like that help lengthen your telomeres. They help the cells become strengthened, your immune system becomes strengthened. It's fascinating. We've had many intuitives say this vibrational change in the earth that's occurring. We need to have very strong immune systems. And so strengthening the immune systems is going to help us do our vibrational change. It's going to help our bodies be healthier. And cancer is just a sign that we're not clear, and our vibration has got other things going on. And what I found is if I can raise people's vibration through herbs, through emotional work, through doing toning, through doing body work, different modalities. You know, all of us are doing these different things, and what we're trying to do is raise our vibration. And as you raise your vibration and get rid of these things, because it's fascinating, on Dr. Hawkins' scale, viruses vibrate in blame, shame, guilt, remorse, those kind of things. Fungus vibrates in lack and desire and want and those kind of things. You know, like you desire, if you're into desiring sugars and different things, you've got fungus. And parasites vibrate in fear. Isn't that interesting? They vibrate in fear, which is the opposite of faith. And so, if you are fearful or anxious, you know, you go to bed and you have, you know, crazy dreams, nightmares, little kids with night terrors, parasites. So treat them for that, rather than, you know, other things. Cancer is a mutation of normal cells. How do our cells mutate? They mutate by getting viruses into them, fungus into them, parasites into them. There's intracellular parasites that are causing mutations and different things. And so if you've got any kind of weird disease going on, look into parasites and fungus. The viruses, our body will get rid of them if we get all the parasites and fungus gone, because the virus is hide in fungus and parasites. Okay, let's see. Fungus provides the genetic material for virus. Toxins. Let's talk a little bit about the toxins. Detoxing helps you get rid of fungus, viruses, and parasites because it helps your immune system. Toxins cause trouble. Now, a lot of the toxins we have are what they call phytoestrogens or estrogenic compounds, and they're causing a lot of people to end up with female features. If you see a young boy that has boobs, he's probably got parasites and phytoestrogens or different estrogenic chemicals, chemical estrogens. And so you need to look into chelating those out and getting rid of them. Everybody in here knows what chelation is, right? Pretty much?
No.
Okay. What chelation means, to chelate is to grasp or encompass. Chelating agents are molecules that actually cover up and swallow up heavy metals and toxins, and they pull them out of the body through either the liver or the kidneys. There's artificial ones. EDTA was developed in 1935 by the Nazi Germans, and it was interesting because it's one of the most powerful chelators I've found, but it's artificial, it's man-made, but it's very non-toxic, which is nice because it gets out of the body within 3 hours and it pulls a lot of toxins out when you put it in. The thing most people need to be careful with is too high a dose can cause damage to the kidneys. So you need to get with somebody who knows what they're doing. And I used muscle testing, so I didn't overdo the EDTA. But there's many natural chelators. Chlorella, very nice. N-acetylcysteine. Chlorophyll. You know, all of these can pull out heavy metals and toxins and uranium byproducts and heavy isotopes. Okay, let's see. Metastatic cancer. Let's talk a little bit about this. I have found if you've got metastatic cancer, there's a fungus involved that helps these to spread through the body. And I've found that maitake fraction, the diffraction of maitake mushroom, will disable these fungus and kill them and keep the metastases from occurring. So if you've got metastatic cancer, it's something to think about using the maitake mushroom diffraction extract. Works very good and helps with metastases and different things. I'm going to talk a little bit about lengthening your telomeres. There are substances in the world that will stop the aging of your DNA and help lengthen the telomeres. One of these is the blue-lipped mussel. If you eat that, it will actually help stop the aging of your DNA and your RNA. And
What is that?
blue-lipped mussel, it's a mussel that's in the ocean, and it has
Mussel or mussel?
mussel.
Mussel.
It's a what do they call them? Mollusk. It's a mollusk.
Like an
It's a
oyster.
clam. Yeah, it's like oysters. Oysters are mollusks. But this product really helps, and there's several new products out that have this in it.
What do you have for vegetarians?
Well,
Give it up.
probably the best one for vegetarians is this stuff called IntegraCell, and it has the form codes of the blue-lipped mussel, but they're vegetarian, and it's put out by a company called Innovita. I love this guy because he's very innovative, and he called his company Innovita, and it's very innovative. Helps the cells regenerate. IntegraCell, it's called. I was listening to a guy who's been an MD for 30 years, but he went alternative, and he was talking about this SG75 and how it helps lengthen the telomeres and helps the body.
telomere, can you define that term?
The telomere is the end of the DNA, and every time your body replicates, the cells replicate. In other words, the DNA splits off, you lose a little bit of length of that telomere every time. And by the time you don't have any telomere left, the cells die. They die. And so lengthening the telomeres actually makes it so you can go through more divisions with your cells. Now, one interesting point, your body will replace every cell every 7 years. So if you start meditating and manifesting that you'll be younger and everything, you can actually, at the end of the 7 years, be younger than when you started. And it's a fascinating thing, but it works. But it takes your intent and continuing to do it. Transcendental meditationists live an average 20 years longer than everybody else. So there's something about going into that peaceful space, that wondrous place, that bliss that brings you, keeps you younger. So don't stop. It's very good for you. Yes?
Do these products that you're talking about cause the body to increase its telomerase, or do they have telomerase in them?
They actually lengthen the material. They have the energetic and physical characteristics to improve the DNA and lengthen the telomere during replication. And so, take really good care of your body, because the replication will occur much better if you have all of the constituents there, plus have these products and use them, throughout your bodies. Because our cells are dividing all the time. Our intestines replace themselves every 5 days. So, if you're having stomach problems, I take them just for the help it can cause your intestinal tract. And, they've been shown to assist in all kinds of chronic illnesses. So,
What's DSG-75 about?
excuse me?
What's DSG-75?
You'd have to Google it, because I don't carry the product, but this doctor does. It may have blue lip muzzle in it, I don't know. That has been one of the few substances on the planet that have actually been shown to, it was in all of the forever living drinks and the fountain of youth and all that stuff. Eat blue lip muzzle. They're very aphrodisiac too. Is there another question? Oh, go ahead.
Do you use a frequency generator or zapper that all the Clark talks about?
I did not. I quit using it because what I found was all it did was stimulate the parasites and make them move out of the mucus and the membranes that our body walls them off with. So it actually moved them so they got out of the protection they were under, so that the parasite cleanse could actually kill them. And so what I found was using enzymes was even more effective, because the enzymes would break down the mucus and the membranes, plus the enzymes would help break down the dead bodies after the parasites were killed. And so I've been using enzymes instead of the zapper for probably 20 years. I used the zapper when I had cancer. And you're passing this DC current through you, and DC currents are very benign for living things, because our nervous system works off the DC current. And I found that it's stimulating. Even listening to another thing that was talking about anti-aging is all these micro frequencies that you can use. They actually help the body and help stimulate the RNA and the DNA and help the mitochondria produce more ATP. The Rife machine, all these things help your health. They help it through passing these frequencies through. I have found many people who have used the Rife machine for cancers and haven't had as much success as using antiparasitics, antifungals, antivirals. And so I believe a combination is the best. I wouldn't depend just on the Rife machine. I would do everything. Yeah, you know, we have so many good things at our fingertips, and so, you know, a lot of them are very good.
Would you just talk about how you work, you know, individually with people, and then do some toning? So
Yeah, we're running out of time. What I do with people is, I've always had the gift of being able to see people's auras and feeling what's going on in their bodies. I'm kind of an empath, so I'll focus on somebody and I'll feel this or that, and I'll know that's what's going on in them because, you know, just through the years I've been able to see that as one of the things I do. But I look at their body, I see what's causing the problems, and then I use logic and energy to help shift things and improve things, and I use a lot of herbs just because those are God's medicine, but I'm finding that we're needing more and more energy as time's going on, because a lot of the plants are becoming infected with these viruses and genetically modified organisms and all these things, and so using the herbs is great, but we need to bless them and get the energy raised in them, and raise the energy in ourselves by cleaning up our thoughts and our emotions and various things. And so I use a lot of modalities to help people raise their vibration. If you raise your vibration to a certain extent, you can get rid of these things. However, I found some of these things will keep us from being able to raise our vibration. So it's good to use herbs to do parasite cleansing and get these viruses and fungus and things out of our body. Toning is a very interesting thing. I just went up to Boise, Idaho three weeks ago. And Boise, Idaho is where I started toning. I went there 10 years ago. The city was only about 250,000 people. And now it's 680,000 in that valley. It's amazing how huge it is now. But I haven't been up there in so long. And I went up to find out if this man by the name of J.J. Dewey was actually talking to John the Beloved, who was, you know, brother of Jesus, who the Bible says was left here to stay until Jesus returns and all this stuff. And I went up to see if this guy was really talking to this guy. And I knocked on the door of this cabin, 30 miles north of Boise, and it's so fresh in my mind. The lady opened up the door and she says, "You've come to heal us." And I looked at her and I go, "No, I didn't. I came to see J.J. Dewey." And she opened the door and there was 24 people in a prayer circle praying for healing. And J.J. had told them, John had told him that someone was going to come and heal them. And I was like, "I'm not the guy. I'm just here to find out if you were even talking to him." And he told me that story. He said, "John told me I would give you a blessing and you would bring the sounds of God out of your mouth and heal people." And I was like, that sounds cool, but who am I to do that, you know? And so he gave me this blessing, and it felt like this download came down into my body, and I had everybody line up in the cabin, the sickest one closest to the window, and then they went on down. There was 24, 25, 26 people, including me and JJ. And this other lady. There was
can you
27.
turn off that so we can?
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'll turn this off. We'll give it a break. And so what ended up happening was I started doing this as I had everybody line up and I had everybody put their hands on each other's shoulders. And basically I just heard this sound come into my brain and it came out of my mouth and I just went, and then I heard another one come and it was an ong and it went, I felt this energy come down through my top chakra and go out through my hands, and it went to the next and the next and the next, and everybody just got healed that day. and it was dumbfounding for me, because you know, here all these people just boom, wow, but they had the faith, they had prayed, they were open to the channels of that energy coming through them and bringing that energy to them to heal. And I do a lot of that with people. And a year ago, last September, as Elenin was coming around the sun and it dissolved between the sun and the earth on September 26th, I was helping a lady here in Fairfield, and all of a sudden, I kind of blanked out. She said I kind of went out for about 10 minutes, and I felt all this downloading come down into me, and I started doing this really high-pitched, strange, I call it laser tone, and it's a very interesting frequency, and I was told it was to help open up the brain, especially the pineal gland, because the pineal gland is a very powerful gland associated with the cerebral chakra, and so I started doing, well, I'll demonstrate it, just so you can kind of hear it. Okay. I have to attune to the group. So, because everybody has a little different frequency, so. But it's a higher pitched, and it goes like this. It's that just kind of pops your pineal glands open. It's kind of cool. And so these different things, these different modalities are very powerful. You know, and as a medical doctor, I was trained to be very logical and all this stuff, and I'm none of that anymore. So, so just realize I'm as out there as probably the rest of you. So thank you so much for coming to the lecture tonight. I appreciate it. Another question?
I was wondering if eating chocolate, high quality chocolate every day, like 1 or 2 ounces, is that a symptom of parasites or just a symptom of?
Chocolate is it's the herb of the gods. You know,
It's not a problem.
it was so funny. I went to the store, you know, everybody's, and I came home and Janet's in there looking at what I had bought, and there's chocolate. And it's so fascinating because chocolate has a very high frequency. And it actually will raise your frequency. It's the sugar that's not so good for you. But who wants chocolate without a little bit of, you know, sweetness to it? And what was interesting was when I had pancreatitis, I was told by my guides, you need to experience sweetness in your life. Just make sure you don't just eat that only, you know. So chocolate is it's a superfood, believe it or not. And I love superfoods, and we should eat more superfoods.
Pass it out.
Yeah, chocolate. But yeah, don't feel bad for craving chocolate. It's something that'll take away depression. It helps you sleep better. It's loaded with magnesium and manganese and calcium, and you know, it's got a lot of good stuff in it. So just don't eat too much. Yes,
So,
Jim.
I'm going to be in the back. If somebody wants an individual session with him, he will spend 40 minutes with everyone, and he will include a toning session as well, and a 3-month protocol, and then a check-in point during it, because sometimes releasing toxins is a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. One of the complaints I've had, I'm very excited to get people well, so I put them on a program, and I've been told by Spirit to just be very gentle and raise people's vibration more gently, and so the protocols won't be as involved as they've been previously, and the frequency, the vibration is changing. We need a lot of support of our glands. Believe it or not, our glands are suffering the most due to all the toxins and the petrochemicals. Most of these things are neurotoxins too. And so working on the central nervous system has been important, and getting fungus out of our central nervous system. they've almost come in as a sort of defense. So I do intuitive readings, and if anybody has been to their doctors or somebody and they don't know what's going on, your guides speak to me and tell me, you know, what's going on in your body, and so it works very nice.
Do you have your card?
Yes. So thank you for coming tonight, and God bless you all. And I pray that you have few parasites in your system.
Did you want to put up that last slide? I think you didn't tell us last.
Oh.
Had kind of a recommendation, didn't you? Or did you cover it?
Which one?
This was stuff.
No. And it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, good. That'd be great.
It's cool. Hi. Oh, Roseanne! Nice to meet you in the flesh! Very cool. Very cool.
I did last.
So good to see you. You look like you're Aura.
I don't know.
Oh, what? You're welcome. Do you have a question?
I did. Do you want me to run this back to Janet so she
Yes.
will,
Yeah, I gotta make sure I'm not giving out my.
I'm gonna check it for you.
Yeah, these are fine. Yeah, give it to those.
Karen,
Oh, Karen, how are you? Yes, my God, it's been a while, but it's okay. Yes. Good, good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Been a long time. Well, I do one every 3 months. I know you do. I tell you, if you have problems, do parasites, they don't get Isn't it interesting? Oh man. Yeah, I didn't start doing that until last year. I was seeing a lady over in a trailer over by the domes and downloaded me. And I have no idea how I get so high. I used to be a singer, and I can't get that without them. Yes. My sister-in-law was unable to get pregnant having these parasites. And I did some toning on her tubes. She's 36 years old, never been able to get pregnant. She's pregnant. Due in November. And I know it was the laser toning that opened up her tubes. Very cool. So it works. It works. Very cool. What? Oh, this guy, I love him. Oh. Yes. I'll give you one that actually has some good information. It's good to see you. See you. God bless you. Thanks for coming to the lecture. I've been coming twice a year. I come whenever the spirit goes, okay, there's somebody praying, I need your help. So. Okay. I do intuitive readings, and you know, I just make appointments and do it. I'll bet money he's got to talk some business. I had a guy who went to Vietnam, and he was one of these murderous, crazy dudes that the government produced, and he was deaf in his right ear, and I was told to have him do ear candle. You ever heard of ear candle? And I was told he needed to do 16 of them and use some herbs for parasites. And the guy did his hearing and told me that. And he was deaf for like 20 years. Yeah, just call and make appointments, whatever. Take care of them. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
Is it okay for you?
Great.
Thank you. Lots of good energy. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad you're here. Good to see you in the flesh. It's always fun. Okay, you coming? Uh-oh. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Mary. You know you were a blessing to me.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I love you. Yeah, see you. You know what's interesting? A lot of emotions that are affecting your voice and your heart chakra. And I love you.
Good thing you were there.
Harder to do this over the phone. I like having
I wonder if he does like phone.
Good to see you. Hello. I am so good. Good to see you again. How's things treating you? How's life? Good. Your chakras are feeling good, so you're doing good.
The what?
Your chakras. Your energy centers.
Too bad today.
Yes. You look good. I would recommend Parasite.
Yes, I was just going to tell you, I read like in a Farmer's Almanac or something that
Yes. They're most active, and they're most metabolically active, and the herbs work even better during the full moon. Yeah. And the new moon was Monday, so right now is a good time to start Parasite, because you'll be on the highest dose during the full moon.
I'll pick out all my old stuff.
That's right.
So does it work like the mold, the candida, then the fungus, then the...
Wormwood has been found to be one of the most powerful antifungals as well as antiparasitic. But you want to start real slow with it, because you want to don't want to have the healing crisis. There is, and she told me to mention this in my lecture, Hersheimer reaction is a cleansing reaction.
We know about that.
Okay.
Everybody knows about it.
Everybody knows about that. Okay, good. Then I
You're
don't
gonna
feel
get
so
it.
bad.
You're gonna
I don't
get
want to feel bad. I want to raise my vibration.
Well, I was asking about the mold. You're the one for me. Very, very little.
Do you need more?
Well, I'm on your program for 8 months.
Good, good.
And, for my brain. And
Yes.
it's really helpful.
Yes.
Not really, because I stopped for money because I'm
Yes.
and I was fighting that.
Yes.
And it took about a week or two till I could go, or even maybe even a month.
I'm really grateful you got back on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I should do the the others. Because I have something going on with my leg and it's such
yeah, so you've got that larval migraine, so Holy Clarks will work good for that. The wormwood, the cloves, the black walnut. I'll send you the instructions, or I've even got some here.
Well, you have the program. You have the tinctures.
Yes. I don't have them with me, but you know, you can call the office and get them. Let me give you the. Oh, where's the parasite? There it is. This is the basic parasite cleanse. Yeah, very good. It works for toxoplasmosis, which is what it feels like it's affecting. So it would be good.
Do you recommend more now than
It depends on the person. Some people do better with tinctures, some people do better with I love tinctures. I use a lot of tinctures. Yeah, you just slip them under your tongue and I'm getting it would be helpful. Yeah. There are a couple of things, yeah. Yeah.
Can I talk to Janet?
Sure, Janet's good. Yes, it's true. Yeah, it's good. Janet's loaded. She's a loaded gun. Janet Schwartz. She's a cool cat. I enjoy it. Well, I didn't save it, you saved it. Oh, you know what? Dyeing the hair, we can get rid of those toxins, but you can't look as young without dyeing your hair. It's worth it. Who was it that died? The playwright. She wrote, you know, When Harry Met Sally, and what's her name? Anyway, she died recently, and she made this statement. She said, if I had it all to do over again, I know dyeing your hair is toxic, but I will always dye my hair because I look 10 years younger. And you know, looking at yourself in the mirror and liking yourself more is pretty important. It's pretty important. So I say go ahead and dye it and we'll get rid of the toxins some other way. Put you on a Butox. They do have a homeopathic called detox, and it helps get rid of. What's that? Yeah, well, this stuff actually gets rid of beautician toxins, hair dyes and all that. Yeah, I love homeopathic. I love homeopathic. Yes.
That was actually my question.
Yes. I love homeopathic. They shift electrons, they shift energies at such deep levels. Parasites, they work good on an energetic level. Sometimes you have to go to the herbal level. Yeah. And, but they work. I've been using homeopathy for 25 years. And, I make some of my own, but I use a company called PHP, Professional Health Products. I really like their products. They're really good pre-made stuff. But I bought myself a machine called a body scan, and it works really well. Yeah, it's a Phasix 2010. It's different. Yeah, the Skios are good. They're good. And, you just go with your intuition when you use kinesiology. I really believe autism is due to HPV viruses. Because they hyperstimulate it. Because every time I've treated people for HPV and little kids, you get the herbs into the central nervous system and do antivirals. And I use this HB from Energy. It's a attention deficit disorder, high potency. It works pretty good. Yeah, it's a homeopathic. It treats symptoms really good, but I use the herbs to get the virus in. And then you get rid of mercury and metals, and then if they're parasites, because the virus can hide in there.
Chronic stress infection, it's all kind of
Interconnected.
what I've been finding, because I work with this in Anita, is related to stress.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of really tightly intertwined.
Yeah.
And then we've got the parasites that kind of flare up and flare down, and so we're trying to figure out, the combinations of them, using homeopathy, mind you. And so it's very, very complex.
Yes.
And so we're trying to figure out as homeopaths, treat these kids on a homeopathic parasites as well as the herbal tinctures of what,
I've had such good success using them.
Yeah.
Like I'll use the homeopathic with herbs and cycle, go back and forth. Because you have to, parasite eggs won't hatch when you're giving them antiparasites. And so you have to give them that break so the eggs will hatch, and then you got to kill them before they go lay more eggs. In cycles. Because they're smart. They're smart. They don't want to die either. Yes. Now that works really good in the intestines because it cuts them, but it won't do anything to parasites in the body.
What about candy? What about cats?
I give them antiparasitics. I give them antimicrobials. They carry angels like one. Yes, all of it. Yeah, I treat my dogs, my cats, all of them. Oh, I sit on them and have them take them. And they go crazy. They'll run around. Herbal. No. Pharmaceuticals. They're too.
I don't want to assume anything.
Yeah. Pharmaceutical antiparasitics are so toxic. Never. I will never give anybody.
Now, what about, I don't know about the MMS? I don't know if you know what
It's
autism is.
good for bacteria, but it's not very good for parasites.
I fixed my cat when it came through. It really would break, came in with a big scratch and fever, yeah. Did you get it?
Yeah, that was a
And
bacteria.
I just cleared him off and I gave him a dose, a couple doses for 2 or 3 days and that he was fine.
Oh, I sit on them. I'll sit on them and I'll open their mouth and I'll drop it in their mouth. I mean, they have no choice. They're like my kids. Star, take it. Yes. Yeah. Cats and dogs respond so good. You know, like people have to do 2 parasite cleanses with my dogs and cats in 1 week. They don't have all the emotional crap.
And if they do, it's yours.
Yes. Yeah. They actually take ours away from us. Kills intestinal parasites, but it won't work for total body parasites. They get the ones in their whole body. So the diatomaceous herb is good. They put in their food, you know. The intestinal ones down, but you gotta get them in. Yeah. Well, you can get them, you know, I mean, now black walnut wormwood combination. Want that?
For cats and dogs? Is it safe for cats and dogs? Now?
I've used it forever.
Write that down.
And it's cheap. It's cheap.
Now?
Yeah, it's called fresh green black walnut wormwood combination. It's got cloves in it, but it doesn't say that on the name, but it's got cloves. But you don't need much. What I would do is, you know, for every 10 pounds, a drop. It doesn't take much. Animals do. I did it on a horse. This horse knew we were taking good care of it, and it would run up, and we could just give it to the horse. And it was amazing. It would literally, it knew we were helping it, and it just wanted it. It was way cool. Horses are smart. Well, dogs are smart too. Cats are smart.
So it's green walnut.
Yeah. Let me get her.
Alright, yes.
She's been very patiently waiting.
Very good.
Oh,
Green walnut.
nice to meet you. Yes. Can you get him in the good. Yes. Yes. You're a good mom. Thank you. I'm sorry to make you wait. Oh. I am so grateful you're doing so good. Oh, thanks for coming. Yes.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Sweet, bittersweet chocolate.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, that's so interesting. The Fairfield2012. When I was in Hawaii writing my book. Boy, I didn't know.